Hello, I'm Fulton County Commissioner William Bill Edwards. Welcome to the South Fulton Good Things Show. On today's show, we have some very important facts to share with you about a very hot topic among many of you, namely annexation. What does that word mean? And what are your rights of citizens when it comes to annexation? Today we'll hear firsthand from county experts, so you may want to grab a pen, jot down some facts. Stay tuned. The South Fulton Good Things Show will be right back. Welcome back to the South Fulton Good Things Show. Today we are talking about annexation, what it means and how it can impact the community. My guests today are Fulton County Attorney David Ware and Randy Beck, Director of Planning and Community Development. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good to be here.
You know, people are talking about, since the issue of cityhood failed, people are excited, not excited, but they're scared about the possibilities of annexation. Tell us right now, what is annexation?
Well, Commissioner, it depends. There are two forms. Mm-hmm. One form is where a city can actually attempt to annex land or property into their municipality based on the city's desire. And the other form is where 100% of the landowners in a contiguous area decide they want to be a part of the city. Mm-hmm. And they become a part of that city through a method called annexation.
Mm-hmm. Anything you want to add?
Well, annexation is how a city grows its borders to increase its tax base and its business base.
Right. What actually changes when a property is annexed?
The property goes through the process like the county attorney spelled out and becomes part of the city's municipal boundaries when all is said and done. And once it's in the municipal boundaries, those citizens are now provided services by the municipality rather than the county.
Can any property, you know, people ask this all the time, can any property be annexed? Tell us a little bit about that.
Not any property. It has to be contiguous. It has to be property that is directly adjacent to the city's current limits. And it's not an automatic. As a matter of fact, the county commission can object if a city wants to annex certain properties the county finds will increase infrastructure needs, will change the density, or if there's a land use or zoning change. For example, somebody's going to annex property and change it from single family to light industrial. Mm-hmm. The county has the right to object to that, and you go through a process, and it may or may not go through. So it's not automatic.
Let's talk about this contiguous thing again. I understand that in annexation, you can jump a highway or you can jump across a county building to be contiguous. Am I correct with that?
Yes, sir. You have to be along the public right-of-way. That's a big part of it. Mm-hmm. And this idea about jumping a building is really going to be determined by how the map spells out the particular place they want, mm-hmm. Because land is static, so you don't have gaps, you don't have holes, mm-hmm. but you could have a building mm-hmm. that actually straddles two dividing lines.
Now, can I be annexed without my permission or notification?
Not without notification, but you don't have to have your permission.
You want to explain that?
Yes, sir. The city can decide that it wants to annex property, and if it does so, then it files a petition with the county. The county can object, and then the citizens at that point can come in and say, we don't want to be a part of that city. But actually, unless there's a legitimate reason, a legal reason for it not to go forward, for the most part, it'll probably pass.
So they can go without going to the community first and asking them if they want to come into the city. You can start the process without saying anything and worry about the citizens feeling later.
Yes, sir. It's not required that you go to the citizens first.
All right. How will a homeowner know then if their area is being considered for an annexation?
The 60% rule, which is one of the ways that you can annex, that does require a public hearing and a zoning hearing. So the typical notification for those hearings would be put out. The 60% rule, there's 60% of the property and 60% of the voters in that area are aware of it. The other 40 would become aware through the public hearing process.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people going around talking to areas of unincorporated South Fulton about the possibility of annexing into their cities. The question becomes, and that they want to know is, what happens to me if I'm annexed, say, into the city of Atlanta with my school system? Where do my children go to school?
They would go to the City of Atlanta school system. They would no longer be a part of the Fulton County school system.
Is there any legislation that's pending that could change that in any way that you know of?
No, sir. Not that I'm aware of that would change that in terms of assignment of schools. No, sir, there's nothing pending.
So we want to be clear that if you annex into a city, be it Atlanta or any place else that don't have their own school system. Now, if you go into Union City or whatever, then you will still continue to be in the Fulton County school system, am I correct?
That is correct.
But if you go into a municipality that has its own school system, which Atlanta does, then you will have to go in, your child would have to go to that school system.
Yes, sir.
I think that's going to clear up a lot of facts of our community, because they're saying that they're telling us that we don't have to worry about where our children go to school. They can stay in the school system where they are. Right. Well, stay with us. There's more to come on South Fulton Good Things. Welcome back. We're talking about annexation today because many South Fulton residents have major concerns about whether their property will be annexed in other cities within the county. Joining me are Fulton County Attorney David Ware and Randy Beck, Director of Planning and Community Development. Let's finish our discussion. You know, sometimes it's a bit confusing to people because they're not sure what is an unincorporated area and why it's unincorporated. Can you explain that?
An unincorporated area is any area of the county that lies outside the municipal boundaries of the numerous cities we have. And it's within those areas that the county provides municipal type services like police, fire, parks and recreation, planning and zoning.
Because those areas still have a city name. For an example, it could still be in Fulton County unincorporated, but you could have a East Point address or a College Park address, excuse me, but you're still in unincorporated Fulton County. Explain that to them.
That is more of your mailing address doesn't necessarily determine the political boundaries of where you live. And so that it is confusing to the citizens that they may have a College Park address, but they may be in unincorporated Fulton County. And many times we have to be able to assist the homeowner or property owner to tell them what jurisdiction they actually lay in.
So would you say that the best test is where you get your service from?
Yes.
Yeah, service in terms of Parks and Rec and police and fire.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk about all annexations are not bad. It's a necessary evil sometimes. Let's talk about the annexations that are legitimate annexations that cities do apply for.
Recently we did have one just like that, and it's really an opportunity for the city to develop a parcel that may be on the border with the county. The recent one we had was a growth aspect for business. They needed the additional land for the development of the project. It was good for both parties involved, and that went through smoothly.
Okay, did that come to your office, David? Even if we have an agreement?
Sometimes it all has come through our office. In other words, it ends up on the board agenda because the board still has to agree and not object, because the board can object if there are legitimate reasons, or board members may object if you have four. But yes, sir, it'll come through our office, it'll be vetted, and then it will go on the agenda. And if it passes, it passes, and the development that Randy spoke about would begin, and the people in that area would begin to see benefits. That's what we hope on the good annexations.
Okay, let's talk about a big question, and that is the question of notification. Because there's a lot of entities going on here. Explain to us about the notification process and about what we as a county can do possibly to make it better.
Yes, sir. The law requires that the municipality send notice to the county, but doesn't define to whom it should go or who should respond. So if one department gets it and they don't pass it along, we might miss the opportunity to object because you only have 30 days from the date of receipt. So I think the county might want to start looking at sort of deputizing some other people to respond quickly or to object before that 30 days runs, so that we don't run afoul of the rule and lose the opportunity to object when the annexation is not a good idea.
You talked about 30 days after receipt.
Yes, sir.
Right. How does the municipality know that we've received it? Do we have a return receipt requested, or is it certified? How do we do it?
The law doesn't require them to do that. The law just says they have to send it, and it is presumed that it's received in a legitimate time if they can prove that they sent it. So if they've got a copy of their letter, it's addressed properly. If someone would object on the issue of receipt, they probably say, well, we sent it. Whether they got it or not, or what they did with it is on them. So we have to proceed as if we got it and quickly respond so that we can make sure to protect the citizens if necessary.
So talk to me a little bit about if in fact you can send it to anybody, anywhere. It could go to FGTV, it can go
Yes,
to
sir.
Parks and Rec.
Yes, sir.
And it's still considered as a legitimate.
It's considered received when somebody in the county gets it, or it's addressed to somebody in the county and it's mailed. It's presumed that we've received it.
So how can we as a governing body kind of protect ourselves in terms of whether in fact we have a legitimate receipt of the document?
I think you have two things. One, the board could sort of almost deputize other people to respond quickly. Mm-hmm. Number two, the board could, if you had to, have a special call meeting where if 4 of you got together and decided if you wanted to object or not. So there is a process we could put in place that will protect us if we're worried about receipt and notice.
Well, think about this. If the board can say that we have certain people that you can send it to, 2 or 3 people, and then based on the fact that those 3 people, we can say it's a legitimate receipt. Can we do something like that as a policy?
You could, as a policy, send notice to the 14 cities, letting them know that these people are who you should direct your correspondence to. But I would just tell you, Commissioner, even if they don't, I don't know that the law would necessarily protect us as long as they can show they send it to somebody in the county.
And I understand that.
Right.
But the other part of that is we would never say this. But if we did say it, well, I just didn't get it.
Right. Well, I think, again, the law presumes that if they send it to the right address, that we got it. And the burden would be on us to show we did not get it.
Has any of the, outside of Union City, which was a good annexation, have we received any type of inquiries of future annexation by any city?
Typically, we don't receive an inquiry about a future annexation. It's usually through word of mouth from other sources that we may hear of some desires that may be out there, but typically what we receive is the actual annexation itself. At this point, I haven't personally received anything on any future annexations.
Okay. You know, one of the referendums in the House last year was to make the city of South Fulton, and of course it didn't pass. One of the things that people thought that with the passing of that referendum that we would kind of push off all the annexations. It didn't pass. So do you anticipate a rush to annex in unincorporated South Fulton County?
I would think with the recent legislation, it has started the interest level out there again. It's got property owners who are near other cities considering whether they want to be a part of a city or go ahead and secure the city of their choice at this time. Yeah. So it's probably revived that thought process that's been dormant for a while. So I think we probably will see some annexations.
Well, we know that we've had one city who has already had 3 community meetings with our constituents in the Cascade Road area. And that's where we talked about earlier about the schools, because they're selling the point that the schools, if you come with me, you know, you can stay in Fulton County schools. So I think it's important that when we have cities that go out and do that, that we come out, and the board said that last Wednesday,
yes, sir,
that we come back and give people the exact facts and tell them the truth about what is and what cannot happen. Let's go to the 60% method again, because when we had the annexation frenzy a year ago or so, there were a lot of people who said, I didn't sign it. Several people came up to me and said, my 18-year-old daughter was home or something, and she signed it, but she don't own any property. I woke up the next morning, I was in the city of Atlanta. So, or there was an incident where they had a picnic, and everybody was signing for the picnic, but they actually was signing the petition. How can we verify the fact that a person is a property owner, has the right to sign that petition? Whose responsibility is that?
The burden's on the applicant that the signatures are legitimate. I don't think we have a process in place now. Randy might be able to speak to it better than I can, where we try to verify if these are in fact homeowners. But the burden is on the applicant to make sure they've got 60% of actual leaseholders before they can go forward with the annexation petition.
And the issue with this is, once again, the 30-day period in which we have to act. It depends on the size of the annexation as to whether we can verify it's 60% of the voters and a representation of the property owners that equals 60% of the acreage to be annexed. So there's two things that have to be verified. We've had some recent conversations. We'd have to work with the tax assessor's office as well as voter registration in order to verify these things. All this to take place within 30 days is kind of a tight schedule.
But I think, as a matter of what's right, David, that they should be required on their end, once they get the signature, to have verified.
Sure.
Is there anything we can do as a policy, by resolution or word, to say that you must have verified those names?
We can't, because it's a matter of state law, of what has to be in a petition and how it works. But what we could do is, if the board so chooses, is to make sure that we try to fast track somehow through appointing some one or two people to go through and try to verify. But as Randy said, that's a very difficult thing to do, and you only got 30 days, and that 30 days is a drop dead date. There is no flexibility in that date.
Randy, let's clarify something else, and that is the fact that if you're annexed into a municipality, that there's some certain services that are the responsibility of the municipality that you've been annexed. Talk about that for a minute.
Well, once you're inside of a city, they're going to be responsible for providing police, fire, planning, zoning, permitting, inspections. Your school system might change, like we discussed earlier. You may be saddled with some additional taxes for trash collection, which has been a surprise to some property owners in the past. So those things would all change. The county would no longer provide those services, and you would be under the guise of the city's services.
Oh, so let's go back again, because some people get confused once again about annexation and incorporation. What happens when we annex?
When you annex, you become part of another city.
Right.
When you incorporate, you become your own city.
What are some of the major factors that residents need to know in terms of understanding the annexation process that we haven't talked about?
The only thing I would say, Commissioner, is that residents need to know that the Board of Commissioners can still object to an annexation on a number of grounds, and if they feel that it's not good for the community, they can certainly contact their representatives and make sure the board hears all the legitimate reasons, and the board may object. It may be a zoning issue, it may be a land use issue, a density issue, and if the board objects, then you have to go to arbitration. And again, so that's a short process too, and then you can also go to Superior Court. It takes about 140 days or so for this to go all the way through if there are objections, but there are fail-safes along the way where the board could get involved on behalf of citizens and object to an annexation proposed.
I think the Board of Commissioners have a growing concern about the issue of annexation. At our last board meeting, the chairman brought it up, the fact that maybe we should prepare, and we're doing that now, a matrix, so to speak, of if you go to this city, this is what it's going to cost you. If you stay with unincorporated, this is what it's going to cost you. I think that's important because it gives us an opportunity to put the truth out there. Little things like, you're not going to be able to leave the school system, all right? That people really believe that they can, and they're being told that. So the board has taken a position, I think, already. You're working on some things.
Yes, sir.
I think some things, Randy, we need to work out on our end, and I'm really concerned about this issue of notification, the 30-day rule, when does it apply? So, gentlemen, let me thank you for being here today. I think we've asked enough questions, answered enough questions about this issue of annexation. It's a big issue for South Fulton County, and people are very much concerned. When we return, my thoughts on today's topic. Come on back. As we wrap up today's show, I'd like to again thank our guests for explaining a very complicated process. However, as residents, you are your strongest advocates. But you must understand the real facts. You can decide what is best for your community. No jurisdiction can make that decision for you, and by law, they should not. I hope our information and conversation today have been helpful. Let me know what you think. Connect with the District 7 office online with Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or our website. Of course, the old-fashioned way of calling still works too. Thanks for being with us today. We will see you next time on the South Fulton Good Things Show.